Alright, this is meant to be an honest review of the Falken Wildpeak AT Trail. I have a 2015 Subaru Crosstrek. We just got a couple inches of snow here in Colorado. It's blowing around. It's actually pretty icy. And so I thought I'd get it out. I didn't really see any other good reviews. I realize that's kind of what everybody says in the reviews. But the only ones I really saw were from, the companies that, carry the tires themselves. Here's a sheet of ice. So there's a little bit of sliding there, but very, very minimal, just so you guys can see that. So yeah, I mean, just a lot of, like I said, just kind of basic stuff, really going over the features. And again, this is all actually a sheet of ice under this. It's all melted before it froze. So, but anyway, really good tires. Before this, I had the stock Yokohama Geolanders on there. They were okay. They never did great. I feel like they never gripped really well. They were always a little bit noisy. As far as these are not any noisier, and in fact, I think they're a little quieter. Although I've always noticed that new tires always tend to be, once you get past like the first 100 miles, they always have a tendency to be a little bit quieter, just because there's more rubber between you and the road. So that actually kind of makes sense. As for these, like I said, they're great. They do really, really well in these wintry conditions. They're really nice, just kind of all-around tires, and I've been pretty pleased with them. The only real downside, I guess I could, say that exists with these tires is that the fuel economy is not good. I genuinely would get 32 to 33 miles to the gallon in my car. And I realize it's kind of the most these Crosstreks can get, but that's really what I was getting. And like right now, let me just jump over and just see. So running around town, I'm getting 28.8. I usually am a little over 29 with these tires, and again, I've had them now for 1,400 miles, and so it's kind of a bummer in that I would say I lost a solid 2.5 to 3 miles to the gallon. Again, it's that sort of trade-off though, and I love having tires. I mean, again, here's a bunch of snow, totally froze underneath. The ABS is kicking in, but stopped really well. And just kind of point of reference too. So this is my third Subaru that I've had. My wife has a Subaru as well. She has the new Ascent. We're not like a Subaru family by any stretch of the imagination. I've had several Jeeps. My other vehicle is a 2015 Ram 2500, and there's a little bit of plowing there, but not bad. And these are truly this is about as worse as a condition as you can get, because it's kind of that snow on top of ice sort of condition. But my Ram 2500, I've got some great tires on there, and I've got the Goodyear Wrangler Duratreks. I have those on an old Jeep that I have as well. I've had the BFG all-terrains on a couple of vehicles. I like those as well. So I kind of know what I have kind of an expectation of what I want to get out of an all-terrain tire, and this definitely meets that. I've also had cars with bad tires, so. Again, so if you're kind of looking, this tire is an interesting design because it's designed specifically for that sort of crossover SUV where you need a more aggressive tire. It has the 3-peak snowflake designation. I forget exactly what that's called, but it's the severe weather designation, and obviously this is relatively severe weather, and it's just fine. But it's nice to have that, especially because certain roads in the United States require that. If you're going to drive without chains, they require either all-wheel drive, four-wheel drive chains, or that weather designation. That's the other thing I like too. If you just saw when I went over this, a little bit of slush pile or snow pile in between the lanes. The car pulled a hair, but it didn't, jerk over like you kind of see from some tires, and so it's just been great. I also had a chance to drive this in really, really heavy rain too, Again, really great water treading. The other thing I kind of like too with these tires is that we've gotten some pretty good winds here in Colorado recently, and you can see, I mean, the snow is just blowing right across the road here and just making this a sheet of ice. And another thing I like about it is even though you'll feel the wind kind of push on the vehicle, it doesn't slide, meaning the car itself is not losing any traction as it's being pushed by the wind, which I think is pretty cool. So I've been really, really impressed with these tires. And again, they're, you know, the other thing people talk about with these is the kind of roar that you get on the highway with an all-terrain, and not these in particular, not these Falcons, but just people in general say, hey, you kind of get these roar out of these all-terrains. And I definitely noticed that in my truck, for example, when I switched from the stock tires that came with it, which I think were like a Michelin, I can't remember now. But again, it's basically just a highway tire, very little tread on it, and I pulled those off with just a couple thousand miles on it, sold them, and put on some different tires. And I noticed even actually from going from the BFG all-terrains, which I had on my truck, to the Goodyear Duratracs, that there was a noticeable roar. And there is no noticeable roar. In fact, I would even argue that at highway speeds, it's a hair quieter than those Geolanders. Again, is it because there's more rubber? Could be, but the nice part is it's not like you traded off a, you know, kind of an all-season tire for an all-terrain tire and gained a bunch of tire roar on it, so you don't get that in the highway. As far as dry handling, that's another kind of big question. As far as dry handling, they handle great. There's really kind of minimal sidewall flex in them, and they're not super stiff. I mean, they're not, you know, a sports car tire by any means, but they definitely have a nice. It's stiff enough where you can take a corner and you're not getting a bunch of roll out of the tire, you know, on that sidewall. So that itself is pretty nice too. Another thing I found interesting about this tire, and I've seen this before with, you know, again, I had a Subaru STI that was really kind of finicky depending on what tires you put on it. And I've had that in some other cars as well, and I've actually experienced that in my trucks, meaning if you put some, you know, depending on the tread, that you almost get this sort of pull, right? And you can get a radial pull, that's a different issue. That actually has to do with more of a manufacturing issue, but, you know, I've noticed that sometimes you'll find tires that'll wander more. And especially once you start getting with that luggier tread pattern, that's not the case here, which is kind of cool too. It just drives like a normal car. You don't lose feeling in your steering wheel or anything like that. Again, you know, here we go, you know, acceleration up a hill, it's just fine. You know, the traction control is not having to do anything. But I guess the point is, you know, if you're looking for a really, you know, nice tire for your Subaru, at least as of right now, as of the date of this video, Falken, however you want to pronounce it, is actually sold out of these tires all across the country, and they're not going to be getting them back for another month or two. I'm assuming that probably had something to do with the Toyota Rav4 TRD putting it on theirs. But, you know, again, it's also just a really good tire. I think I actually maybe got one of the last sets in the country. But again, not a lot of reviews out there, at least at that time. So, and here it is, you know, totally, you know, basically a snow-packed road, drives great. You know, there's some other good tires you can look at, but this is really, at least as far as the Subaru is concerned, that it's the only all-terrain offered with the stock wheels and without going down an inch to get, right now that's just a sheet of ice right there. But again, it stopped before. I didn't really have the brakes on much, but it stopped just fine. Without having to go down in size, so you can use, you know, the BFG all-terrains, you know, like the KO2s or something like that. So again, those are great tires. I think it looks cool when you go down the size. For this is kind of my daily driver, and I didn't really want to have to switch those out and you know, spend a lot more money to really get a nice, you know, a nice wheel. So, but anyway, I hope this review helped you. You know, if you're looking for that nice all-terrain tire that's going to give you great winter traction, you know, great all-around traction. Yeah, you might lose a little bit of gas mileage, but I feel like you really gain a lot in the performance department. You know, this is going to be a great tire for you. You'll definitely want to check it out, at least when they come back in stock, or if you're viewing this a few months later, hopefully they're already back in. So, yeah, thanks so much.